Okay, and the final part of sketching our quadratics is actually where you have a negative squared term in there. So if you have a look at this first equation that we have, it's a minus x squared rather than a positive x squared. We still need those three pieces of key information though. We want our turning point, we want our intercepts with the x and y axes as well. So let's start by getting the roots, the intercepts with the x-axis. So we've got a few different methods for doing that. Could do it by factorising, could try our quadratic formula, we could even try completing the square. For this one, let's do it by completing the square because we know that later on to get the turning point, we're going to have to complete the square anyway. So it might help us, save us a bit of time with that. So first of all, it is a negative quadratic. So let's start by factorising out the minus 1 that we've got here, similar to what we were doing in a previous lesson. We can factorise the minus 1 out of the 8, but we don't need to. We saw that last lesson. And now I complete the square on what's in the bracket. So I know that I need to halve that minus 6 to give me a minus 3. And I need to take away 9. But then I remember I've got that minus 1 out the front. So I need to put all of this in a big bracket with the minus 1 there, and then the positive 8 is still there on the outside. Let's now expand this with the minus 1. So we're going to get a minus 1 times by the bracket. And minus 1 times minus 9 give me positive 9. And then I've got this positive 8 as well. So simplify that. And 9 plus 8 is going to give me 17. Now from here, I can get my turning point straight away. Let's start with that. I just need to make this bracket become 0. It doesn't actually matter that there's a minus 1 or a minus sign out the front of it. I just need to think, how can I make that bracket there become 0? And of course, we would need our x-coordinate to be a positive 3. Just going to write this at the bottom to save a bit of space. And then that would leave us with a y-coordinate of 17. So our turning point this time is actually 317. But then what we can do is use our completed the square form to actually solve the quadratic as well. So remember, we're getting the roots, the x-intercept, so we need the y-coordinate to be 0. And then from there, we're just going to try and make x the subject. So let's first of all move the bracket over to the left-hand side, just to make it positive again. So that negative bracket that was on the right, we move it over to the left, it becomes positive. And then we're just leaving the positive 17 on the right-hand side. We'll square root here to get rid of the bracket. So that will give me plus or minus the square root of 17. And then the final step is to move the minus 3 over as well. So we get that x is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of 17. Now, it's a good idea at this stage to actually check roughly what that number is on your calculator. You might be able to do it in your head, but it's a good idea to check it as well. And 3 plus root 17 gives us, going to round it, but 7.12. And then when we do it with the subtract sign instead, we get minus 1.12. So now we can actually mark these roughly on our set of axes. So minus 1.12, let's say that that's roughly there. And then we've also got positive 7.12. Let's say that that's roughly over there. Final bit of information that we need, of course, is our y-intercept. And we simply just let x become 0. So we're going to have that y is equal to minus 0 squared plus 6 lots of 0 plus 8. And that's just going to give us that y is equal to 8. And we can mark that on as well. So we've got 8 there. And we'll put these on as well. So this one on the left was the 3 minus root 17. And the one on the right was the 3 plus root 17. Putting them back in exact form again. And we need to put our turning point on here as well. Let's say that that's roughly here because it's definitely above the y-intercept that we had. That was only a value of 8. Turning point was 317. And you might be thinking at this stage, how is it possible to connect those points up and get that same smiley face that we had before? Well, actually, when you've got a negative quadratic, so a negative squared term in there, like we do here, we had a negative x squared, it reflects and it flips over the other way, and it actually becomes a sad face instead. So it looks something like that.